Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I'm so happy to see you, and I think we will have today a very interesting conversation about photography for photographers, for videographers, about light, about big project, about your company where you are working on light. So, for the first question, you are a photographer in your past.
Yes, correct.
How you start this job?
Well, I think we kind of have to go back when I first got a camera. I'll just tell you a little story. I was very, very young. I must have been about 7 years old, and I'd wanted a camera for a long time. I don't know the actual reasons why I wanted a camera. I just like the idea of having a camera and taking photos. We just bought a dog, and I had a bet with my mother that if my dog went into the water and swam on his own, then she would give me £10, which was a lot of money a long time ago. And my dog went in the water, and I got £10. And the first thing I went and bought was a camera. And this was like a disc film camera. So you put the disc film in the back. So I just started taking photographs from there. And I think really I just was so interested in taking photographs that through I was going through school and college, I was always going towards art or music, and photography was part of art. So I got very much into my photography, and that's what I really loved, and that's what I really I found myself within it. I found that I was something, and this was me. I'm a photographer. So I carried on that path. I did photography GCSE, I did photography A level, and then I started to. At the time, I was looking at a lot of fashion magazines were out called The Face, ID, and magazines like that. And there's all these like beautiful images of people and faces and fashion and makeup and hair, and it just mesmerized me. I think I got mesmerized by faces and portraiture. So from there, I kind of pushed towards it. I got my first job locally as a black and white print room technician for my local newspaper. And these were in the days where everything was shot on film, everything was printed, and that was my job. So from there, I went to college in London, did a HND styling and photography course, and from there I left college. Maybe I should have stayed, but at the time I was very keen to start working, and I got a job in a studio called Big Sky Studios. And at the time, Big Sky Studios was very, very popular. It's probably like the biggest studios in London for high fashion and advertising. And I was a studio assistant. So I was running around making tea, cleaning up, painting the studio cove, and just watching the photographers around me. The fascinating thing about it is 2 weeks before, when I was at college, the photographers that I was studying and writing about, 2 weeks later, starting this job, I was in the same studio with the very same photographers that I was studying.
Hmm.
So for me, I was very mesmerized. What I enjoyed about that and what kind of pushed me to doing photography is seeing how they work, the work they produce, but more importantly, the equipment that they were using. College was very good for theory and background work and prepping your work and sort of explaining why you come to the arrival of doing this work. Um, but in the studio, I saw the professional equipment that was being used. And to me, that was quite an important thing. And it was quite an important progression because I needed to know the tools to do the job. I guess I had the ideas in my head, and I've been given the education background to how to formulate these ideas and develop them. But this was a real turning point for me. So yeah, from there, I was literally hanging around the studios, talking to photographers and asking all the photographers that came in, do you need an assistant? Do you need help? Could I come and join you? And yeah, that's where it went from there. And eventually, I did get a few little appointments with photographers. I had about 3 or 4 photographers that I'd assist. And yeah, in the meantime, I was getting to know people, building up my portfolio, and looking to get myself out there and show it to people.
Hmm.
So that's really how it started.
Okay. If to compare studio this time when you start to do your photography job and
Mm.
studio now, what is difference?
Wow, gosh, photography's now. I think the big difference is that it's digital photography.
Hmm.
That's a big, and also back then it was flash. So in the studios before, it was very important to keep lots of flash equipment, lots of flash accessories, and have a good film stock as well. Now there is no film stock, and we're seeing less and less flash equipment and more continuous equipment. Continuous equipment lighting was really for filming and filming only. there were a few photographers that did use continuous lighting, but because we were shooting on film and Polaroid, you're quite limited on the film speed you can shoot at to get the quality that you wanted. We were doing our light readings to do a photo shoot for the film that we're using would be around 100 ASA
Hmm.
or to 160 ASA. And if you kind of went beyond that with your film, it'd start to look grainy, much like a newspaper print. And unless you wanted that as a look for your picture, that's not what you wanted. You wanted it very sharp, very clean, a very fashion and beauty kind of look. So the continuous lighting at the time to achieve that aperture, that power, to get that small aperture so everything was very sharp, there were very, very big lights. There were huge 6K up to 18K lights, which is quite a big light to have in a studio, directing onto a model. And also the power that they draw, some studios wouldn't have that power. So you
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to use that light anyway. Um, but the difference is now we've got LED lights which you can plug into a basic household 13 amp socket, which will give you the same output as perhaps a 4000K HMI. So that's the difference that I see now. It's the output of the lighting versus what you could achieve back then is very, very different. And also ISO as well. You can quite easily on a camera now with digital photographies is take your ISO quite high, which allows you to let more light in without having to have it too powerful. So yeah, that's the big difference. They're the big changes that I see.
Okay, when you worked like photographer, you used flash, not continuous light.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was trained on Flash. All the photographers that I was working with and I was watching in the studio, they all use Flash. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think before maybe a few years ago, only people start to use continuous light. Before, only flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and photographers, because I rent my studio for photographers and I see what they want. And in general, I think 99% of all photographers, they want to use only flash and the same light setup. And I'm always pushing people to use continuous light and they worry. So what do you think what we can do that photographers start to use more continuous light and they will understand that they can do much more with continuous light?
Yeah. So I completely understand that perspective from the photographers that you say, how about using continuous light? And there's a bit of resistance there. And I completely understand that because I don't really work professionally anymore as a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But if a client came to me now, they saw my previous work and they said, we like it, we want you to do this for us. There would be a huge side of me that would go, yeah, I want to use Flash because it's what you know. And it's you've already worked out your geometry of lighting through Flash and you know what you're going to get. And I think that when you've got a job and you've got a client, that's not the time to experiment. You want to go in, do the job, give the look that the client wants,
Mm-hmm.
and be happy for it. And I think that for a photographer to start to use continuous lighting, they really need to do this as a test or have the opportunity to shoot in continuous lighting without a client there, without that kind of pressure. And then they can see, well, actually, I can achieve what I achieved in Flash through continuous lighting. And in fact, it's actually more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking the button, Flash, looking at the screen, going, let's move this, let's do it again, Flash. You know, what you see is what you get. There's no sort of like, let's wait and see how the Flash reacts. Let's wait and see how the Flash bounces. Let's wait and see how it's going to react on their skin, or and also, we take multiple shots with doing flash photography because there'd be some shots where the eyes wouldn't be quite right, or
Mm-hmm.
the model didn't have the quite conviction, or they weren't looking in the right way. And instead of going through big contact sheets trying to find the right shot, I think you kind of see the right shot right away. And once, because there isn't, like I say, there isn't that moment of having to look after the flash to see what happens. What we could do and what photographers should do if they want to look at continuous is test, have the opportunity to test, do a demo with lighting. If you've got a free day and myself with Nanlight, this is what I do. I'll go to see a photographer, I'll bring them the lighting, they can do a test, they can see what they're getting. And that'll give the confidence to then go into a professional job
Mm-hmm.
and go, I can achieve this. A couple of times when I was doing jobs and I thought, I think I'm going to do something different. Why don't I change it? I always do the same setup. I do change it around a little bit, but generally it's the same setup every time. And a couple of times I remember doing jobs and so going, okay, let's do this, let's experiment. And of course, I didn't have the time to do a proper experiment. And I'd look at the picture and be like, oh goodness, no, 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 quick, get it back to how it was before the client sees it, because you don't want to expose yourself in that way. Um, so yeah, I think that's really it's just to test it and use it and play with it and and don't look to sort of oh, I've got a job tomorrow, they're going to pay me so and so amount of money. I think I'll use continuous. Not a good idea. Because if you don't know it, then you're going to be a bit of a situation. And let's face it, it's a job. You've got to keep the client happy. You've got to be consistent. And you don't want to be running around changing lights thinking, what have I done? I haven't got time to do this now. So, yeah, give yourself the time to test and experiment. That's what I'd say.
Hmm. Okay, but if we will speak about photography like about business,
Mm,
for example, we have customer brand, clothes brand. And all brands they want not only photo, they want a video also. And when you organize a shoot for this customer, you can work with continuous light and you
yeah.
can work in the same time with videographer, and it's big benefit for your customer, and you can sell with this benefit more like photographer, because you can have a someone who will work with you about video, and you can give more for your customer, and you can use all this to sell yourself more and more and more. If we speak about business, so it
Mm,
means that we don't need to be afraid to use something new. Yes, and because we can do great job. Because for example, if about me, for now I'm using mostly only continuous light, because for the first I can see result immediately. I can use different light setups, and again I can see result immediately. I can use screen, and in this screen I can connect videographer also, and he can see his result immediately also, and we can work together. And for example, our customer who owner of this brand, he can see if we do everything right, if it's good like in mood board.
mm.
So what do you think, how photographers need to change their marketing to develop themselves and to sell more and to work more with big brands, because everyone dreaming about this kind of customer.
Yeah, an amazing point as well. To point out that's how the two worlds of filming and photography have come together. Um, I remember seeing some of the biggest fashion photographers get the contracts for stills, but then also wanting them to kind of be involved with the filming side of it. And what I would see is that they would simply hire a DOP and a gaffer that knows continuous lighting
Hmm.
and bring them along to the shoot. And the lighting would have to change. The flash would have to go and they'd have to set everything up, which took a lot of time. And they would have to, the photographer then is no longer the photographer becomes a director.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of photographers either went into or they didn't, and they literally just gave it to a different department. So that's a really interesting point, and you're absolutely right. And also with today's climate, there may be a client that wants you to do both. They want you to do the moving image side of it, and they want you to do the stills image, and you don't need to change the lighting setup.
Hmm.
Um, if you understand continuous lighting, you may not need to bring in the full crew. I mean, okay, if it's filming and they want a lot of moving stuff like that with like dollies and tracks and things like that, of course you need technicians, camera technicians that understand that kind of equipment. But if you're doing something maybe on a lower scale where it's just a bit of filming with cameras, then yeah, the ability to sort of say that I can do both is huge, and you are going to attract more clients and more work in this way. And like you said, when you're shooting in photography with the LED lights, you found it a lot more efficient. You don't need to, for example, we don't need to use gels anymore. If you want to change the color, we don't need to put a gel in front of it. You're literally changing it, the color temperature. You're literally changing the color temperature. You don't need to use gels. And all this time saving gives you more opportunity to be creative and focus on your job. And exactly as you say, the client can also see what you're doing as well,
Hmm.
and they can approve it and be very happy. I remember when it went from film, when I went from film to digital photography. And in all honesty, I didn't know much about the digital photography. I had to get a digital assistant in who'd set everything up. And instead of me looking at Polaroids and going, yeah, this is good, we'll shoot it on film. We had a screen. And I think one of the first jobs I got, I was only testing with the lighting. I was just playing, getting set up. And in the background, I heard this, oh, yes, that's it. We've got it. And I turned around and the client was looking at the screen with my digital assistant. So they decided when they'd got the shot that they'd liked, not me, the photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that very interesting, a little bit scary and a little bit unnerving, because before I had control,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the Polaroid, I was sending the film off, I was looking at the contact sheets, and I was showing the clients, what about this shot? What about this shot? But they could see it right away. But that's a good thing, because the client I was working with, they were art directors. They knew what they wanted. This is
Mm-hmm.
what they wanted, and I could have been there all day playing around with lighting, but they were able to see it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a great thing to point out, that it's changing and it's evolving, and yeah, the more photographers can become videographers, cinematographers, DOPs, however you want to categorize it. Yeah, I see that's a great asset.
When you work like photographer, how you promote yourself?
Probably not as well as I should have done. Really, it was contacting agencies. Everything was pretty much photo agents then. So I'd send my portfolio around, and
So it
just.
was not Instagram.
No, it was not Instagram. There was nothing like that. We were producing. Most photographers would go and get a very nice Italian-made portfolio with your name embossed on it, and it was constantly going out and getting your work printed and swapping the prints around. And maybe you'd go and see an agent. They'd look at your book and go, "I like it, but really you should do this, this, and this," and they'd change it around for you.
Mm-hmm.
And go, "That's good," and then you take it to another agent. But in all honesty, the best way to promote yourself is to socialize within the industry. Well, certainly was in my time. It was go out there, go to the parties, go to the shows, meet people, get on with people.
Networking.
Yeah, networking. Stylists. A photographer without a stylist is literally limbless. You need to start working with stylists. They're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are getting the work. And you start collaborating with them as well. Don't be an island on your own. Don't think, oh, my work's my work, and if people don't like my work, that's it. They just don't get it. It's not about that. It's about collaborating with others. I always said this, that my photograph isn't just my photograph. It's the makeup artist I work with. It's the stylist I work with. It's the hair and makeup that I work with. That's what makes a photograph. And that's why, as much as I could, I'd like to take my team with me. So if I get a job, go, listen, if you want me for my work,
It's about collaboration.
yeah, it's about collaboration. And I think that's the way to get work, is to collaborate with people, work with people.
But if you work photographer right now,
Yeah.
what you will do with your marketing? Okay, collaboration, yes. Networking, yes. What else?
I would be constantly doing online content, much like you do, in every aspect, showing people how I work, showing people where I work, who I'm working with.
Like own brand.
Yeah,
And you
creating a
develop
brand. Yeah.
your website. Yes, you will develop your Instagram.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be doing that. I'd have control of that, because when I was a photographer, you didn't really have much control on that unless you were very tech savvy and you really knew. The photographers that did very well back when I was working was ones that were very good at retouching as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very, with Adobe and stuff like that, Photoshop. If they were good at Photoshop, they could shoot their own stuff. They could scan their own work. They could go home, produce it, and then get it off to print really quickly. I had to work with retouchers.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find people that were web developers that could do websites.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do it really efficiently. I mean, you can get your own website very easily now, very
Yeah,
quickly.
but from one side, to be photographer now, it's a little bit easier maybe than before. But from another side, you have so many competitors in this kind of field.
Right.
For example, we have this big field like Instagram. You can find all photographers in all countries. Everyone have nice photo. Sometimes you didn't understand it's AI or it's real photo. And
Right.
now Instagram, they tag photo if you use not your own photo. So Instagram now can understand.
Right.
And it's good because sometimes a customer can't realize it's real photographer or someone else, like a scam. Yeah. But from another side, yes, photographer want to develop himself. He will post photos, but it's not enough to have nice photo. What you need to do more? For example, I think you need to do video also.
Yeah.
That's why light is one of the most important thing what you need to understand, yeah, because you need to work with light, you need to create video, you need to create video to promote yourself, to show how you work in the studio, how you work with models. That's why all cameras start to change camera. Yeah, now camera is good for video and for water in the same time. This is why continuous light start to develop very quick. Yeah, because now
Yes.
photographer can't be only a photographer who do nice video or nice photo. So you need to be like a multi-professional. You need to do everything at the same time. Very good if you want to be the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And often it's the case that people want to buy into you and what you do as much as they want your work as well. It's interesting to know what people do and how they do it. I mean, even if you're posting something which doesn't have something particularly to do with photography, it could be you doing something else, and people, they like to buy into that. They don't just want to buy into the product. They want to buy into like, I I like this photographer because they do this, they just do that, and they happen to like this as well, and I really rate that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think that's super important. So one thing that got me is with getting jobs is that I produce quite graphic, I guess, quite out there beauty shots, which wouldn't particularly be the kind of work you'd see in advertising, which is the work I was going for.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found quite interesting is when I'd show a customer or a client my work, and it was very, like I say, very arty, very graphic, it's a certain look, they'd love it. But the work they wanted me to do for them was nothing to do with the work that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to realize something. Most people could produce the commercial photography that I did. That's
Mm-hmm.
not hard. But they liked the fact that they had this photographer that produced this kind of out there, a little bit different work. It was almost like, oh, that guy that does all that kind of crazy stuff, yeah, we've got him working for us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of blew my mind a little bit. But then I started to understand it a little bit more. And I think that's what you're saying. Like people like want to buy into the brand, see what you do, see the kind of video stuff that you do as well. And like you say, see how you work with the models,
Mm-hmm.
almost like your philosophy, your ethos of who you are. I think that's more important because, like you said, many people are producing good photos at a very good standard, whether they're using AI or not, or that. And but then I think what kind of happens is if everybody's doing that standard, then what's going to stick out? And it's going to be your ideas, your creativity, who you are, what you represent. It's almost like saying if the whole world could play the guitar very, very well, we'd all be listening to who's writing the best song,
Mm-hmm.
not who's the best guitarist, not who
Mm-hmm.
sounds great.
Yeah.
We'd be looking who's the most creative. And I think you can apply that to quite a lot of the creative sort of fields now.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite easy to produce some music at home. You can, you don't have to go into a studio anymore. You can sit in your bedroom with a microphone and make something like that. So that means everybody can produce high quality music, right?
Yeah.
But who's producing the music that people like?
Mm-hmm.
Who's producing the creative stuff? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about AI? Because a lot of photographers now complain, and videographers also, that we will lose jobs soon. So, what do you think about that?
Um, Honestly, I think my opinion was like a lot of the people's opinion my age, a little bit fearful of it and a little bit dismissive of it, um, because there's a kind of sort of protection that happens that you think someone's going to take your work, or someone's going to take all the years that you've developed your skill using lighting like that. But I've turned around a little bit and I thought to myself, if AI existed when I was back in college and I was doing all this prep work,
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved it. I would have loved it. I mean, a lot of the times, if I had an idea, I'd sketch it out, or I'd get mood images of stuff that I like to show the client and go, "Oh, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe it's going to look like this." And often that's what photo shoots were like. That the stylist and the art director would turn up with a mood board of what they wanted you to look like. It'd be such a good tool now to say, well, instead of having a mood board, let's actually create images that we want to do. And again, I'll go back to the creativity side of it. Well, anyone can produce something on AI, but who's doing it creatively? You have to come up with the idea for AI to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
have to put the input in. It's your idea. So it's still it's still you, it's still your art, it's still your ideas and what you're doing to develop it. So I see it as a fantastic tool. And I don't see it taking people's work away from them in that way either, because you're the one directing the AI, if you like. And a good analogy would be, let's say an AI is a fully working studio that you've got control of, and you can just do it like that, and it's very, very quick. So I still think there is that need for the photographer to be there, because you need to have that sort of real life experience that it's happening. Sometimes the connection between the photographer and the model is
Hmm.
quite an important one. It's got to be important. You have to have this. There's a sort of trust and vulnerability, and sort of there is a certain level of intimacy as well.
Hmm.
That it's just you and the model, and you're communicating with each other, and the model's moving in a way that they feel is correct, and you're kind of directing them. And sometimes the model will do something that you haven't directed them to do, but it's absolutely perfect for the situation and the shot. And at that moment, you're like, there you go, that's it, don't move, there, like that. So I don't think that interaction's ever going to be lost, and that authentic photograph and that authentic moment's not going to last. But as a tool for creativity and for prep work, and maybe it is the final image that it's used, but it still come from you. So yeah, I'm up for it, and I'm quite excited to use it. I haven't even done it yet, other than a few AI searches online or a few jokey things. So I haven't actually used it creatively yet. So I'm quite excited about it.
Okay. So tell us, please, about your job now. What are you doing now in your job? So it's an absolutely different story.
Yeah, so I did a big sidestep. In all honesty, my photographic career went up, and it went down, and it went up, and then it went down. And as I was developing my portfolio, I always worked in jobs where I could use studios
Hmm.
and use the facilities at studios. And I found that I got very good at lighting and organizing lighting and understanding lighting. So I worked for a long time in rental as well, renting photographic lights for film and TV. And I remember all the LED products starting to come into the industry, and a lot of the gaffers and photographers would sort of say, "Oh, what's good? What's a good LED?" At the moment, I say, "Oh, well, there's this out, there's that out," but I didn't know too much about it, so I always wanted to know more about LED. I was getting quite excited about it, so I was working in a rental company, and I got headhunted to do work for ProLight Direct, which got taken over by Nanlite because they were doing very well with the Nanlite product. And so now I'm a technical sales manager for Nanlite Nanlux UK. We still trade under another name, but we're owned by Nanlite and Nanlux, the Chinese company Nongguang. And so it's my job to go and show the new technology to photographers, videographers, studios, rental houses, and just introduce it to them and show them and what can be achieved, and talk to them how they can use it in what situations. And a lot of what I've talked about now are great selling points. I can tell them that you can now use this light, plug it into your house, and you've got the same power that you would for a big HMI in a studio, and things like that. So yeah, that's what I do. I
How
literally
many years already?
so 2 years now
Two
with
years.
Nan
It's
Light UK, yeah.
office opened only 2 years ago.
No, the company has been going for I think about 4 years now, but actually being owned by Nanlite is I think it's getting on for a year
But
now.
I know that during these 2 years, it's big difference.
Yes.
What happened?
Big difference with the lighting.
Yes, yes.
Um, I think what happened really was the technology from China and the LED technology from China. They were able to produce LEDs of certain color temperatures and certain outputs, which we hadn't really kind of seen. There were other companies achieving LED for film and TV at a high standard,
Hmm.
um, but from out of China seemed to come all the COBs, which was like your classic type of lamp shape, where all the LEDs are clustered in. The first LEDs we saw coming out were like long strip panels like this, like that, and then putting a diffusion on the front of it. So it's almost like panel lights. But then when the COB started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, they then started to become relevant for film and TV and for photography. And I think that's what happened is all of a sudden these lights were out there that were low draw of electricity but high output. The accessories were the same: soft boxes, zoom spots, Fresnel spots, different types of reflectors giving you different angles. So I think these were developed, and all of a sudden there was this big catalogue of equipment that was available in the UK. And I think that's what's happened. It's slowly crept in. When I was doing film and TV, the list from the gaffers, the head of lighting, they'd all be traditional lighting, But then you'd start to see a few little, oh, and this type of LED and that type of LED, and interesting. And then the big panel lights came out, and all of a sudden they didn't want to use traditional what's called space lights to light a big stage, which were 800-watt bulbs in like sort of like a carousel kind of thing, and they're called space lights because they kind of zoom down like a beam like this and then light up a whole area. And then after a while, they go, no, we don't want to use these. We want to fill the ceiling with LEDs. Again, because it's more efficient. You're not drawing as much power. You've got full control over the lights. You can dim them. You can change the color temperature. You can put effects into them. So having all that without having to change lights, it's kind of as a no-brainer for film crews. So I think the demand started to get more and more and more and more. And I think when I came to leave rental, we were looking at least a third of the lighting list was LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine now it's probably getting half.
Mm-hmm.
And I predict it in the future, it will be almost nearly all LED.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot of interesting projects with non-light. Tell me about what will be this year, maybe what will be next year, what happened interesting. Where photographers need to follow non-light, for example, maybe some interesting events.
Well, yeah, we have got a lot of interesting projects going on. If we look at the photographic market, we're very much working with a lot of podcast companies now, because this is the new studio, podcasting. This is the new type of broadcast. We're working with a lot of companies to promote our lighting because our lighting fits very well into these kind of scenarios. It's lightweight, it's very efficient, it's very, very practical. In the filming industry, our lighting is getting more powerful, and it's kind of replacing the traditional lights that were out there. We have a light that we've just brought out called the Matrix, and it's pretty much going to replace the old floodlights which we use, much like you see a football stadium. They were known as like maxi brutes, different types of bulbs in one kind of setting, in one like matrix like that. And often on film sets, what they'd do is they would build them up into big, massive size of matrices on a crane, and have a crane up high, and that'll give you a big kind of lighting effect like that. We're developing LED versions of that. So that's quite an exciting thing from that side of it. So it's another light that was on the list of traditional lighting, which is being replaced by LED. And so on the photography side of things, we're seeing the same sort of same progression with the lights. We're seeing more lights which the color's getting better. We have an 8-light color engine now, which means you can achieve crazy colors, fantastic for skin tones. And also we can take Kelvin temperatures down from 1,000 to 20,000. So you're not just working with daylight, you're working from the whole sort of scale of lights like that. So from a photography side of things, yeah, it's becoming really efficient. You're going to have everything you need, every single lighting effect, every single color, all your gels is now all installed into this one head. So that's very yeah, that's kind of where we're going with it.
But do photographers have opportunity to go to see this equipment where they can see?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can come to our office where we have a demo room, or I can come see them. I can show them a different range of lighting.
Or maybe do you have events, workshops, exhibitions?
We do, yeah. So we are looking to do some continuous LED workshops, lighting workshops, where you can see actually LEDs working in a real photographic environment. We'll be at the photography show, where we'll be doing like a live studio there, where you can again see the lights working. Also, we'll be present at quite a few other shows as well in Europe. We'll be at IBC in Amsterdam.
This year.
This year in September, and yeah, we've got quite a few things going on. So yeah, just keep your eyes out on the Nanlight page, and yeah, hopefully you can come along to one of the workshops and see what we do. But you can always get in touch if you want to try products and see a product. We do demo loans as well. I can lend you a light for a week or so for you to look at it in your own time. Because it's all very well me showing you a light and how it works. It's best that you take it away with you and have a look. And yeah, and we're in multiple outputs as well. So all your classic kind of retailers where you can buy Nanlight, you can buy Nanlight. So we're here to support, and we're here to like introduce the technology to you.
What do you think if we will close our eyes? What will happen with photography industry with light in 5 years?
In 5 years with light, gosh, what will happen to it? I think we're going to see smaller compact, practical LEDs with large output.
Hmm.
I think that's what we're going to see. I'm not sure, but maybe they're going to become more interactive systems where you can set your lighting up and you can have control of a very small desk. I mean, this is another benefit of our lights. It can all be used off an application. So you can have your light set up and you can be stood there and literally controlling the lights with a pad like this to
So we
yourself.
don't need people inside studio.
I think you will need people on set always there, but the flow of your work, having to have someone on every single stand and every single light, and
So people who work like a gaffer
yeah,
with light, it will be no exist soon. What do you think?
I think no, I think that'll always be there for that side of things, just for the scale of the jobs that they need that kind of work there. But I certainly see the control of lights,
Hmm.
dare I say, being taken away from the traditional desk operator that
Hmm.
has a very big desk controlling it. I think we're going to see that might diminish slightly.
What do you think about photo studios? Because it's very interesting. If to look in different countries,
Mm.
you can see. So one country have a lot of studios, another country don't have anything. Why it's happening? Why these countries are different? And what will happen in 5 years in the UK, for example, and in London?
I truly think that a lot of the studios will become like podcast studios.
Hmm.
That's what I actually see.
Why? Do you think now business is depend of own brand and all people want to be a star to speak?
Not so much that, but I think that people are more interested in seeing something a bit more authentic. And yeah, perhaps you're right. They want to hear people speak instead of just seeing an advert. I think people are possibly more interested in that now.
So in personality.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because a lot's changed. We don't so much have magazine advertising isn't a big thing anymore. There's not really any magazines out there. Everybody's looking online. So, and television advertising as well. Nobody's watching television anymore. Everyone's watching stuff online. So there isn't the demand to produce these huge, massive shoots or huge, massive films, which were traditionally done. Yeah, I think the content that's out there and the popularity of content and online content, I think that's going to have a big influence. Exactly how it's going to change photography, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'm not too sure because I think people are always going to want photographers, but what I do see is a lot of companies want to do things in-house now. They want to produce in-house. They want to have their own studio set up. They want to have their own thing to do. And I think we saw that from like e-commerce, the start of e-commerce as well,
Hmm.
that they no longer need to, send photographers around the world to shoot in South Africa or the Far East to get the look they like.
Hmm.
They can do it in a studio now. They can use AI.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difference. So perhaps maybe in the future, we're going to see more AI going on and virtual production as well, VP screens, things like that, um, more podcasts, that kind of thing. I think that's possibly where it's going to go.
Because what I see now, a lot of studios in London closing.
Yeah,
So photographer, it was like a big wave with everyone want to open, and
yeah,
now everything is going down.
yeah, yeah. I think to actually run a successful rental studio, you're not going to make money based on just the rent of the studio.
No,
You
no.
have to get everything. You have to have the lighting. You
You
have to
always
have the
you
catering.
I can say I'm always in minus. Yes, because if you are not photographer, if you are not working, if you don't have B2B,
Yeah,
yes, for example, something else. Maybe you have your clothes brand or and you need studio to do the shoots. Only to run studio is too complicated, and
yeah,
to rent space in London is complicated. To rent space in Paris is too complicated. That's why
yeah,
they have only few studios in Paris. Amsterdam, I know that one girl, she opened very beautiful 2 floors studio, and she closed because she can't survive.
yeah, yeah. That's it. So if you're not getting everything, if you're not, like you say, like a brand, if you're not sort of like more, it's more like a studio needs to be like a production company now. They need to get everything. They need to get, if a customer comes to you, they need to look after everything. They need to look after the,
Yeah, and always customer, they don't only look on, I need only photographers. They need photographer, videographer, makeup artist. They need in general all teams. They don't want to
yeah,
do anything, and they ask always price for everything like package.
yeah. Yeah, we used to call that, I worked for a few studios, well, quite large studios, and that was called the one-stop shop. That
Mm-hmm.
when the customer comes into the door, they don't have to think about everything. Everything is covered from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps even not the marketing, but the art direction side of it, looking after that, the props, the sets, the cameras, the lighting, the digital, the post-production stuff, the retouching, the now be online sort of content, all that kind of thing. I think that's kind of where a studio is going to be. So maybe it will turn into very small independent studios that are quite successful doing what they do. And then there won't be anything in between, but there'll be mega studios that are like production companies that do everything from start
But
to
maybe
finish.
it's better because what I think when a lot of people decided to be owners of studios,
Hmm.
market going down and all prices for rent studio was super cheap, and
Yeah.
you have super nice equipment, you invest a lot of money for the studio, but you can't have anything from the studio because the price is too low.
Mm.
And if now small studios will close
Yeah.
and will survive only something bigger and more professional, and price will
Yeah.
going up, so for market is much better than it was before. I
Yeah.
think so.
Actually, talking more,
It's the
thinking,
same like with photographers,
mm,
because when new cameras start to say to be sale, or people buy this camera and they decided that everyone is photographer now. And of course,
yeah.
price for photography shoots was going down. It's like £100 for 1 hour.
Yeah.
How you can survive with this price? How you
Yeah.
can will pay tax? How
Yeah.
you can develop? How you can invest money for your education? You don't have this.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thinking more about it, what possibly might happen and what kind of happens already is perhaps studios become a collaboration of photographers that all
Like
work
few
together.
photographers will open a studio.
Yeah, that's right. And then when they come to it, when a client comes to the studio, and they're not just looking for rent, they're looking for the whole creative experience. They'd have a sort of array of photographies to choose from. So that maybe studios become production company, photographic agency, all kind of in one. So when you walk into that door,
Hmm.
you're going to be, you're going to be able to sort of go, right, I'll use this photographer and we're going to do that, but it's all coming into the same pot. And
Hmm.
I see gaffers in the film and TV industry doing exactly the same, that they have their own studios, they have their own equipment, and they're all gaffers in their own rights. But when one gaffer gets a job, all the other gaffers work for them as electricians, and they also use their equipment and they also use their studio.
Hmm.
And then when the other electrician, who's also a gaffer, gets a job, it just works like that. So it doesn't matter where you go, you always use the brand, the company, the studio,
Hmm.
And again, like we're talking about, photography and videography. If you had a client that came to you and said, can you do this photo shoot for me? Great, brilliant. And can you do my video and online content? And you're like, well, I don't do that. You'll have to get someone else to do that. Okay, goodbye. I'll go and find somebody that can do both for me for that price instead of
Hmm.
having to hire somebody else.
Hmm.
So I think that's where studios, I think that's where you have to go. And I think many businesses have to do that as well. If you just stick to one thing and you're not able to sidestep and do other things as well and offer other things, you're going to get stuck. Most of the studios that I worked for had a lighting department. And one of the big things of getting a client into the studio is like saying to them, well, what are you doing next week? Oh, I'm shooting on location in the mountains in Wales. I can do the equipment for you. You can? Well, fantastic, great. And the ability to do that.
Hmm.
And sort of like, so I do your location work, I do your studio work, I do your post-production, do everything like that. So yeah, I think there's already people there doing it. And I think that it's going to be even more that.
Hmm. But if, for example, in London will be exist only big studios,
Mm.
what happen with small photographers who working with families, with pregnant? So this kind of shoot, they
Yeah,
don't need to rent studio for 4 for 5 hours. They need only 1 hour.
yeah.
So in this case, they will disappear because they will not survive in this situation.
That could be very much the situation. And I think that's what we've been seeing anyway. And I think the only ones that are surviving that are the ones that do something very, very different. because a lot of the sort of high street family portraiture thing, as far as I've seen in the UK, is pretty much wrapped up by franchise companies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of companies out there which, you can buy into their franchise and they'll train you to shoot the way that they want you to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll go and set up your own shop, and then you carry the name of that company, and people see it as a trusted name, and they'll go to them, but then they only deliver a certain look. So when you want something a bit more than that, just high street look, something a bit different, you want something a bit more creative, I think that's when you're going to have to search out these bespoke photographers that do that. Like for weddings, for example, I saw a bit of a change in wedding photography with, instead of it being the box standard sort of shooting where families lined up, now the groom's family, now the bride's family, now everybody together, and let's get, that's kind of gone, and let's get a shot of the bride and the groom in the gardens, and that's kind of really changed. People want a bit more of a reportage kind of behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like behind it, because it's more authentic, it's more artistic.
Yeah.
So kind of, it goes all the way back to what we were saying. If everybody's doing the same standard, people are going to want to see who's popping out from that standard of photography, because you can go to any high street photographer and you're going to get the same kind of
Yeah,
look.
for example, you say lifestyle. Yeah, you said lifestyle is more popular now in photography. If we will come back to photo studios, because we have different type of photo studios in different time. For example, maybe 8, 10 years ago, it was very popular to have loft studio. Before loft, it was very popular to have interior with a big window, with natural light, with white walls. And after this and after loft, it was very popular to have cyclorama,
Yeah,
minimalistic. And now what I see is again we coming back to the big window, because people like now to come back to lifestyle photo. You can't to create lifestyle photo with cyclorama.
no, you can't. You can do a box standard editorial fashion type of
Maybe it's
shoot. Yeah,
better, for example, if you decided to open photo studio, to open studio like with big window, with something more natural, because
yeah,
people, maybe it's because AI also exists now,
yes,
and people want to have something more realistic.
yeah,
It's about photo, it's about business also,
yeah,
it's about close brand. Because, for example, a few days ago, I had brief from one customer, and they have very big brief. And in general, idea was we want not models, we want people. We want real women who is not 20 years old and super beautiful, amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, they want real women who doctor, who have different profession, who uh, going to the street, who after work, and they want to make photo about real
yeah,
personality. So, and I'm looking at this and like, it's like my conclusion, because everything is connected. It's like a big system about studios, about customers, about brands, about models. And for example, model agency, I know that I don't remember. I think this is a new model agency. They have name like Ugly.
that's
They
right.
invite people
Yeah,
with different faces,
yeah.
and they're very super success now.
They are, yeah, yeah. They've been going for a while. I remember Ugly
Yeah,
when I was shooting. Yeah,
but
yeah,
now everyone speak about this agency, because all brands want always not super beautiful woman, what in general no exists in this world.
yes, yeah. And you're very right to point that out about models. The trend of models and what models look like has completely changed.
Yeah.
When I was shooting, or towards when I was sort of finishing my sort of photography career at the time, a lot of the models were androgynous looking,
Mm-hmm.
very much so. And that was the look. And from the models that we used to look at and choose, and then the models that we saw doing really well and becoming successful, we'd look and go, "What? What's this? What? God, it's changed. It's
Mm-hmm.
a complete different look." Which is, I guess, that changes with the times as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right on that. Again, people want things a bit more authentic, and something that I've really sort of been impressed with. Not that I'm the person to be impressed by it, but personally, it's impressed me is how the generation growing up have almost claimed back from the advertising agencies, which has kind of projected onto this to society what is beautiful, what should we look to, what should we
Mm-hmm.
adorn. I think they've claimed it back, of almost taking it away. I just use women as an example, but I've seen a lot of girls on like Instagram like doing their makeup and where they're doing their makeup, and a lot of people might look at it and scoff and go, "Oh, look at it's got too much mascara on, or it looks ridiculous, or there's too much." But what they're actually doing, they're claiming back beauty from the advertising companies. They're saying, "No, no, no, this is ours. You don't get to tell us what's beautiful and what's good. If we
Mm-hmm.
want to look like this with our makeup like this, then we will." And the thing is, it creates a trend, and it almost creates a subculture of beauty that all the other girls end up doing their makeup like that. It becomes the look. They
Mm-hmm.
want to look like that. But the advertising companies haven't done that. They've done that. They've reclaimed it back. And I see the same with music, and I see the same with careers as well. As you know, we've got a generation of influencers now that have decided they're not going to go to college, they're not going to go to university, they're going to do what they want to do and form themselves a career through it, and they do it. And we've even got people that are making money from playing computer games online, or they go and
Mm-hmm.
do competitions. Now,
Yeah.
when I was growing up, my mother would be very mad at me if I spent all my time on a computer. But look now. So this is fantastic. The next generation are reclaiming it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very, very interesting, and a point about the models. Yeah, I've thought that for quite a while, and yeah, you're right. So it's better to have more authentic people, real people, because ultimately you're going to appeal to the people, and the people are your market, and you're doing it for the people. You can't do it for yourself. It's great to have your own work and be artistic, but much like a DJ, you can't just turn up and play the songs you like. You've got to play the songs that people like and people
Yeah.
want to dance to.
Yeah.
And in many ways, you have to be like that as a photographer, I think, or whatever kind of
Yeah, yeah,
discipline or
it's
medium.
the same like photographer telling me, I don't want to show myself. I'm worried that I'm not super nice. I'm not super beautiful.
Mm.
I don't speak English well, for example, like me. And I'm always worried about this. And I understand that people follow you not because you're beautiful, because you are speak well in this language or that. They follow you because you are, because you're professional, because you have personality. And
Yeah,
I think with this, you can sell and you can grow yourself in business.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. My last question in this podcast: if no photography, what you will do in this life?
If no,
No photography, you are not working in this kind of field. What you will do?
what would I do?
Yeah.
No photography.
No light, no video, no photography. Not about this. Different.
I'd immerse myself in nature. I'd probably be on a farm. I'd probably be working with animals. I'd probably be making wood, things like that.
Really?
Go all the way back to basics. Yeah.
So if you will think about who you are after 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I'd be doing. If I was in a place where I was living with nature,
So you will go from London. London is too big and complicated city.
I will. Yeah, I will. I will. Because I don't know, I'm a human, and I've always thought it'd be nice to sort of spend some time in an environment that my mind and my body was actually evolved for.
Hmm.
I don't think we're particularly evolved for living in this city environment and this society. I think there's a
But you was born in London.
I was born outside of London. I was born in the Midlands.
Hmm.
I was born in Coventry, which was a city. But when I
Hmm.
was very young, at the age of 6, we moved to the country in Warwickshire, which is just outside of Coventry. So I grew up very much sort of,
But all your life you spent in your United Kingdom.
yeah,
You never dreamed to travel and to live in another country.
I do. And I think eventually I probably will end up in another country. I'll probably retire to another country.
Which country?
Denmark, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because
Mm.
my wife's Danish. So,
Uh-huh.
so
Oh, okay.
which I'm very happy about. And
Okay.
that's great. Yeah, I can see that. I had my time in the UK, and yeah, go spend my times on Viking shores, in the
Mm-hmm.
farmlands, going fishing, that kind of thing, just immersing myself in nature.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm honest with myself, even if I was there, there'd probably be part of me burning, wanting to do something creative, wanting to take a photograph, or wanting to play with lights.
But you can travel and to do photography,
Yeah.
yeah?
I
Yeah,
could always take a
yeah.
camera
I,
with
I
me.
dream I dream about this. I want to have my camera and to have a lot of trips around the world
Mm.
to shoot animals, not people. I want to be my own. Okay, I wish that all your dreams come true. And thank you very much for this night's
No,
conversation.
thanks for inviting me. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. And yeah.
Thank you.